We are going to start this earlier than I had set up. I hope everybody is here. We're planning on starting at 8 o'clock at the firehouse. I called over there and nobody else is at the firehouse, so I'm going to go ahead and start it. I need a motion from the committee to reopen the meeting. Roger has moved to reopen the meeting. Your second. Joe has seconded. All those in favor signify by aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. At this time, I'm going to introduce the spokesperson for PennEast, and she'll introduce everybody else. This is Elisa Harris. They're going to make a presentation for about 15 minutes, and then we're going to have questions. So.
I'm going to chime back in. I have to recuse myself. I have 6 properties involved in this, so I'm going to the chief seats.
All right, Roger has recused himself, and we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you. My name is Elisa Harris. I'm from the PennEast Pipeline Project. I want to introduce you to my colleagues that will be answering some of your questions this evening. First, I'd like to introduce you, because I don't want to miss anybody, I'm doing this in order. Bernie Holcomb. He is a consultant working with us on this project. We've worked with Bernie for a number of years and on several different projects. When you have questions tonight about the FERC process, the factors that we considered along the proposed pipeline project, and some of the other details regarding environmental regulations, Bernie will be helping us with those issues. Tony Cox, we work together at UGI Energy Services. He is the project manager for this project. He's worked with all of the other member companies, the sponsor companies that make up PennEast Pipeline. Tony has a lot of years of experience on working with utilities, local distribution companies, and can answer a lot of your questions tonight about how the partners came together, what resources they're bringing to this project, and how this project benefits New Jersey consumers as well as Pennsylvania consumers. Next to Dante, some of you may know Dante from a meeting last week. He is our project engineer, also has experience working with local distribution companies, and is spearheading a number of our pipeline projects in Pennsylvania. And then also we have Jack Herbert. Jack is our colleague from New Jersey Resources. He's been working with us from the very beginning of this project and can answer a lot of questions, many of the questions that we anticipate about the impacts and the benefits to New Jersey consumers and why his company, along with some of the other New Jersey companies, are investing in this project. I also want to ask a colleague, Kevin Lynott, to raise his hand. Kevin is here representing Elizabethtown Gas. That's probably the local distribution company that you're most familiar with. We have his information, contact information on one of the PowerPoint slides that I'm going to share with you a little bit later. If you want more information about how your residents or business could get access to natural gas going forward, Kevin is the gentleman that you would reach out to. And again, his contact information is on a slide. I'm going to spend the next 10, 15 minutes giving you the basics about the pipeline project, and after that we will open ourselves or avail ourselves to the questions that we have for the evening in the allotted time.
All right, Lisa, can you just give me a second? In the back there in the bleachers, can everybody hear her? Yeah. All right, I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and we did prepare this. We had a meeting in another part of New Jersey last week, and so some of you may have seen this PowerPoint presentation already. One of the lessons that we learned was to make it as specific to the municipality that we're visiting as much as possible. So it may be a little different, and I think a little bit more tailored for Delaware Township. Bernie, thank you. As I mentioned, our pipeline project sponsors are listed here: AGO Resources, New Jersey Resource Pipeline Company, PSEG Power, and South Jersey Industries, and then UGI Energy Services. All of the companies have consumers here in New Jersey. The pipeline project that we're proposing to date is approximately 100 miles, more like 105 to date, and that can change, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. It is proposed for a 30-inch pipeline. We are still still seeing interest from other shippers or potential shippers. So just in the spirit of full disclosure, we could be looking at increasing it from a 30-inch to a 36-inch. But again, this is things we're still working on. It's still in very early stages. It is nearly a $1 billion investment, and this is some of the specific information that we just had last week. But after working with our counsel, who's more familiar with the tax system or structure here in New Jersey, we were able to determine the tax base or the amount of tax that will be assessed through your local municipality. So for the first 5 years of the project, once it goes into operation, we're looking at $5.2 million going to Delaware Township alone in property taxes. As I mentioned before, we had an open season. That's the very beginning process, and that's a process where we open up the proposed project to different potential users of natural gas, and we say, if we built this project, would you be interested in getting gas, natural gas, or using capacity from this pipeline project? It's a very important step of the process because it tells FERC that there's really a need for more infrastructure. It kind of supports that we're not just building this pipeline for the heck of it. We saw a tremendous response, we had a very successful outcome, and again, because the phone calls are still coming in and people still want to get natural gas to their consumers or to their end users, we're looking at a pipeline project delivering about 1 BCF of gas per day. And that's, just to kind of put it in context, because we don't normally talk about BCF, that's enough gas to actually fuel 4.7 million homes. Through the construction project, which would probably take about 10 months, we're looking at employing 2,000 family-sustaining jobs. I will say that is temporary. There will be a much smaller amount long-term for monitoring and inspection of the pipeline and any operation of a compressor station. But for that 10-month period plus, we're looking at 2,000 jobs, typically union jobs. The bulk of that, if not all. Now, that doesn't account for all of the indirect jobs, and I will take a moment just to tell you, we've gotten calls from people that are looking for employment. We've had people that call me from that operate local hotels that say, we have the best facilities for your workers. So when we talk about the 2,000 jobs, please don't forget that there's a ripple to the other jobs. Hotels, restaurants, and the like. Okay, need for new infrastructure. The locally produced abundant supply of affordable natural gas in the northern part of Pennsylvania is clearly needed here in Pennsylvania, and we saw that, as I mentioned, through the open season process. Here in New Jersey, what we've heard talking to our partners over the last 6 months is that the infrastructure build-up has not kept pace with the supply that's needed here in New Jersey. A significant amount of the pipeline capacity that's been signed up for through the open season, again, that will be used by the local distribution companies here in New Jersey. I want to stress, none of this pipeline, none of this natural gas capacity is planned to go to New England states. It's not designed to be exported to Japan or to China. I've heard some of that misinformation being shared. Again, the pipeline project would support New Jersey's energy master plan. Again, we talked about some of the economy, benefits to the economy. Clearly, the need to provide more gas supply, diversity in fuel mix, and also for some of the manufacturers and the electric generating units, this natural gas would be a costly, or a least cost commodity. All right. Proposed route. I'm going to slow it down a little bit here. What we have is a proposed route. When we first start designing the route, we have to determine, and again, there's a few factors, but where we will be initially receiving the gas, that's your point A. And then at the bottom is, the last point where you would interconnect. Typically, in most cases, it's with an interstate pipeline. But in this case, we're starting up in Luzerne County and terminating over here in Mercer County. In between, there are a number of delivery points, and again, based on that open season. So these are entities, whether it's local distribution companies or electric generating units, that have raised their hand and said, we would like to get gas for our customers or for our units. So you have your point A, you have some requested delivery points along the way. Here in New Jersey, there are 4, and then you have our endpoint in Mercer County. This is where it gets difficult for us to explain. Right now, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but right now we have this proposed route. Since we created this first route, we have gotten information from federal agencies, state agencies, local agencies. I may have talked to some of you here in the room. Some of those agencies have given us advice already how to reroute the project to avoid or minimize impact to certain features. And Bernie will talk more about that list of features. So I have to tell you, I say propose and I mean propose because already we could probably point to where we've gotten certain information and decided this isn't the best location for the route. The process of survey permissions, which is some of you have received letters already from Western Land Services or URS requesting the opportunity to come on your property and to survey. We're looking at, like I said, there's over 50 factors, but we could be looking for archaeological information. We could be looking for certain soils. We could be looking for certain topography. We could be looking at whether or not you have a structure that originally when we did a flyover we didn't see, but since then you built a barn or rebuilt a structure. The survey process allows us to come on your property and confirm and delineate certain things that would either say this is a good spot for us to consider or it's not a good place for us to consider the proposed route. And that's where we are now. We have started some of the survey work, and again, as we get this information, and our people are out there every day, as they come back from the field, they share that information with Bernie and other engineers, water biologists, archaeologists, and they start looking at how do you move that line. So I just want to stress that when we say, here's the proposed route, that route is literally changing every day. The FERC process, some of you should have gotten, or hopefully most everyone has gotten, a flow chart that kind of shows you the major steps and the milestones of the FERC process. This is a FERC jurisdictional pipeline, interstate pipeline. There is a very prescriptive process that we have to go through in order for FERC to be able to review the project and make an ultimate decision whether or not it should be permitted. These are some of the milestones that you'll see on that handout if you received it in the back. Again, we haven't even started the first bullet here. We're expecting to submit our pre-file application around October 1. Then there's maybe 7 to 14 days in which FERC will decide whether or not they accept the project. If they do, they will give us a docket number. That is the point in which this becomes a real proposed project. That's the point where if you as a landowner, if you as a township official, if you want to find out about the project, what letters have been submitted, how you can get involved, where the open houses and scoping meetings will take place, all of that information will be centralized on the FERC website. And we will make sure once we get a docket number, we will be issuing some type of correspondence, whether it's website or a press release or something like that, giving you the docket number so that you can immediately start learning about the process and if you would like to be getting involved in the process. Shortly after that, I would say within a few days, there will also be an announcement about open houses. Again, this is a required step of the process. Right now, we're planning on 4 open houses. Again, that's a plan. Those meetings will take place in areas just like this. It's an informal, you can come in, you can visit a table or a booth about safety. If you're a landowner, you can actually talk to Dante and say, here's my house, here's what I'm concerned about, this is what I don't want. There's a table about safety, so any issue, construction, restoration, there's someone there, an expert, whether it's UGI Energy Services or one of our consultants, that can talk to you pretty much one-on-one and work you through the process and answer your questions. I will say the public scope of meetings, these are FERC meetings. They're typically on the record, transcribed. FERC will they're required to respond to all of the questions in writing at the end of the process. Again, when, where, and logistics of those will all be on FERC's website. So I know I'm getting past my time, but if you have questions about the rest of the process, we'll let you know. The one last thing that I will say about this slide, please note that last bullet. There were many questions last week about the FERC process, and I don't want to be in the position where it appears that I'm trying to convince you what exactly is in the FERC process. This document on FERC's website is very helpful, not only to landowners, but to abutters and people in the community. So I would just point out, an interstate natural gas facility on my land, what do I need to know? We'll walk you through the process. It's a very good document. Bernie? Thank you. I mentioned earlier, we haven't submitted the pre-file application yet. We're hoping to do that in the next couple of weeks. Open houses will take place soon after that. The next major milestone will be around July 2015, and that's when we actually file our formal application. So far, except for the open season, the meetings that we've been attending here in New Jersey, we're going to attend some in Pennsylvania as well, going through the extra step of getting out there early, that's all been voluntary. But in July of 2015, is really when, that's the point where we'll submit the formal application. This time, and all the way through July 2015, is our opportunity to hear from you about what you think the impacts will be, what things we should try to avoid, minimize, and mitigate. If all goes well, FERC will issue a decision around December of 2016, yay or nay. If we get a yay, then the next milestone would be construction. And again, if all goes well, we'll be looking to make the pipeline operational somewhere around the winter season, or just before the winter season in 2017. So it's a very long process. And remember, it really hasn't even started the process yet. I mentioned a lot of this already. I would tell you, one thing I would like to stress on here is the right-of-way agreements. Please know that that does not give us permission to finally use your land for the pipeline. Again, this just is a step where it allows us to go on and conduct, our various consultants conduct the surveys or the studies. Bernie? Construction and restoration. We've heard from a number of people that had concerns about farmland preservation and restoring their site or their land after construction. I can tell you UGI Energy Services is very committed to make sure that whatever use you have right now, I tell you, please don't think we're going and we're knocking down buildings and structures. If you're using your land for farmland preservation or for active farming right now, there is very little impact to your land after we're done. And my only concern, my only shortfall is that I didn't bring you pictures. But going forward, I will make sure you can see a farmland or a farm field before, during construction, and after restoration. And that will be forthcoming. Again, I mentioned construction 7 to 10 months. For the route that we're proposing right now, there's a number of factors that could change that, but really we're looking at 7 to 10 months. We will talk about probably tonight a few exceptions. You cannot plant trees, so yes, we will fell trees. We will try, if you have trees on the permanent right-of-way that we decide on, that is one area, one thing that we cannot allow you to plant trees or structures, because for a number of reasons, but we'll talk about inspections, maintenance, and so forth. Pipeline safety. Received a lot of questions about this last night. What I can tell you is moving natural gas through pipelines is still the safest mode of transportation for that source. As you can see, I won't try to hide the 8 ball. People brought up incidences. I can tell you, going back and looking at every one of the examples that came up last week, dealt with, a different scenario. We're talking about the local distribution pipelines where a third party used the backhoe and there was an incident. It's very important based on the safety, what we know about safety now, and what we've learned from both the local distribution companies and other pipelines, the larger interstate pipelines. We have learned a tremendous amount of information, and so we put things in place to make sure that the number of incidences has decreased by 10, at least. I don't even want to put a number to it. So I would say for the last 20 years, most of the incidences, and I do encourage you to do some research, have been third parties not following, not knowing the education about what to do around pipelines, working around certain pipelines or smaller pipelines, and just having an accident. There's some more information there. Bernie, next slide. I'm trying to hurry up here. Through our Q&A, we can give you more specifics about that, but as I mentioned, we've made major tremendous in understanding pipelines, certain behavior around pipelines, and so what we've done is we've put some things in place based on more stringent regulatory requirements, and I can tell you UGI Energy Services, as well as some of our partner companies, tend to go above and beyond, even adhere to more stringent regulations as it relates to safety for a pipeline. We have continuous monitoring. We have technology that we use in real time where we're constantly looking at the flow of the gas through their pipeline. Remember, that's a product for us, so it helps us do a couple of things. So we have real-time monitoring, someone at gas control looking at the flows and pressures. We also do on-the-ground leak surveys. We also have other instrumentation. And we also, from time to time, will do flyovers and look for, things out of place. Dante will share more about that during Q&A. Bernie? Okay, so I mentioned earlier, Kevin Lynott is here. I don't see his contact information on the back. So what we're going to do is, if you, and we probably have some people here that we've communicated through this email account, answers at PennEast Pipeline, we respond to that email account within, worst case scenario, 12 hours. Some of you have sent emails to that and we've gotten back to you in 5 minutes. So I assure you, I would challenge someone to say that we're not responsive through that email account. So if you have specific questions about getting natural gas here in the Elizabethtown area, please use that email account. If you have any, and I would just say, maybe in the subject line, E-Town gas. But if you have any other question after tonight, and trust me, I've spent most of the morning answering a lot of the questions along with my team, please use that email account. If it's on a weekend, I assure you by Monday noon, you're going to get a response. We also have a dedicated toll-free number that you can call. We man that every day. You'll leave a message, and again, someone will call you worst case scenario, 24 hours, 48 if you call on Saturday morning. And I would also encourage you to visit the website early and often. As we get questions that may seem unique or timely, we try to update the website with that information. We spent a lot of time over in Delaware Township last week, and we received a lot of unique questions, and I just received the first draft. Actually, they just said they were going to send me it, and actually got it back. But we will soon be responding to all of those questions. So again, the website will be a wonderful repository if you don't want to go to the Hopewell Township site and you want to come directly to our site. But we'll keep everything up to date. Open houses, scoping meetings, frequently asked questions, and other factoids about the project. So with that, I think we're done. And
All right, we'll start off. I'm going to lay some house rules down. What we need you to do if you're going to ask a question is come up to the podium here. What I'm going to ask first, we'll take 5 people standing at a time in the middle. We'll start with the person in the circle, and we'll have 5 people going back. After the first 5 people ask their questions, I do have a couple students from Delaware Township that do want to ask some questions, so I am going to put them up 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th so they could ask their questions and they can get home, and then we'll go back to the adults. The topic's got to be on the pipeline. The topic's got to be on Delaware Township. I mean, I don't want to stay here late tonight going off on tangents. So please address the issues. Also, I'd like to keep your question within 3 minutes. And I will also ask that the answers try to stay within 3 minutes. But if it gets to be a difficult answer, we'll go a little further. So I think that's the ground rules we'll start with. And like I said, when you do come up to ask your questions, somebody's playing with the sound here, it's going on and off. You do need to state your name, and you need to spell it for us, because we do need to put it on the record. So it's very important that you do that. If you don't do that, I'm going to have to stop you to get that on the record. All right, so is there any, you don't even have to go to the circle. Come on up, ma'am. And everybody else line up from the ground circle back. But just give me 5 to start with, please. Go ahead, thank you.
Hello, thank you for coming out tonight. My name is Nicole, I'm a local attorney. Can you hear this? Hello? Hello. Hey, Nicole Boyd, P-O-I-G-T. Hello? Working now? Okay, can you hear me now? Is it going to make any more awful noises? Okay. Nicole Voigt, V-O-I-G-T. I'm involved with the Citizens Against the Pipeline organization. I'm also a local resident of Delaware Township and a local attorney. I'm going to have plenty of opportunities to submit a lot of information and comments over the course of this process, so I'm going to let everybody have their chance to speak who's perhaps less familiar with the process. But I just have one concern about a comment that you made that I thought, if I heard you correctly, was inaccurate. I thought I heard you say that the right-of-way agreements were just for accessing properties for survey purposes. I heard you say that the right-of-way agreements, on slide number 7, which referenced right-of-way agreements, I heard you comment that those were just for the purpose of surveying. That's an inaccurate comment. If somebody gets into negotiating right-of-way agreements, sometimes those are actually the very easements themselves which grant permission for laying and servicing the pipeline. So I just wanted to clarify that for the record, that the right-of-way agreements are not for surveying necessarily, but they're also the title of the agreement that's used for access and laying the pipeline, the easement itself.
For this project, the survey requests that landowners are looking at right now is for survey permission only. I'm so sorry. I spit all over them. survey permissions only. We will be using another document down the road to get permanent or temporary access to that property.
Understood. Just the way that it was represented, I want to make sure it's clear to everybody that a right-of-way agreement is not necessarily just for survey purposes.
For this project, it is. We use two separate documents.
Okay, but can you go to slide number 7, please? Can we see slide number 7?
Yeah, you're correct. There's a survey agreement that is out there for people to
Thank you.
Okay. To finish the statement, then after we get into the process, there is a right-of-way agreement if, the project goes forward and they're going to obtain a lease, a covenant, a purchase of deed, whatever it may be for the land. 2 steps.
All right, hold on 1 second. Bernie, when you do speak, I need to, every time you speak, you got to say your name. Keep spelling it, but just say your name. No, just say your name so we can have it on the transcript. Because, all right, Tommy.
Hello, my name is Thomas Michelenko, M-I-C-H-A-L-E-N-K-O. I have a couple of questions. First, your survey question. What makes you think you have the right to come on somebody's place free and survey without paying?
Again, this is
Again, say your name.
Bernie Holman. For the survey process up front, we're asking the request for permission to go on there and observe whether you've got any wildlife habitat, type of land.
That is not what I asked. I said, why do you think you have permission to come on somebody's property free without paying?
For when you do the right-of-way agreement, that is paid for as you go forward.
You're still not answering that question.
For permanent right-of-way, we will be providing some compensation to use your land.
No, you want to go on somebody's land. If I want to pay for a survey to pay up front, you want to come on free, that's not acceptable. What is your survey consist of, because your agents you send out don't know anything?
Okay, this again, it's Bernie Holcomb. The survey consists of a variety of different factors. One, we're looking to see if there's any regulable wetland resources on the property. The location of those wetlands would be delineated in points picked up with a GPS. We're looking to see if there's any cultural or historic resources that are identified on the property. We're looking at the types of land use. We have looked and consulted with the different regulatory agencies from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, National Marine Fisheries Service, to the different state agencies for rare, threatened, and endangered species, known habitats that are in the area, and we try to identify if the habitat is present. If the habitat is present, then we will discuss with the agencies doing a formal survey following the different types of protocols for the individual species.
All right, Tom, I'm going to have to cut you. I mean, you can come back up, but I think everybody needs to come up first and then come on back, Tom.
John Bradley, 84 Sanford Road, Stockton, New Jersey. It was slide 4 that you showed the proposed route that everyone is referencing. My question to you is based on the explosion that happened up in eastern Pennsylvania. They talked about a kill zone, and I'm wondering if you can identify the width of a kill zone when the pipeline explodes for all the residents here that have houses close to the proposed pipeline.
I'll have to get back to you with that information.
Listen, you got to say your name, though. Sorry.
Can you please state a date and time that we'll get that answer? Bradley, 84 Road, Stockton, New Jersey.
I will commit to within 2 weeks answering all the questions that once we get. What we've done before is the township has given us a list of the questions, and tonight, this meeting is being transcribed. Once we get that information, we will answer any questions that weren't addressed tonight.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to ask you some questions. My name is Ken Collins, K-N-C-O-L-I-N-S. And my question, I just have one question and maybe a follow-up, if I get it. And my question is, where would the nearest compressor station on this pipeline? Check,
The
can you hear me?
question was,
My
where's
question
the
is, where
nearest-
would the nearest compressor station be that would we be proposing to build that? Closest.
Dante D'Alessandro. The closest compressor station right now for the project is proposed is in close to Delaware Township, Pennsylvania.
In Pennsylvania, so there wouldn't be.
Yes, sir.
in New Jersey.
No, sir.
And what would the horsepower capacity of that proposed facility be?
I believe it's about 35,000 horsepower.
35, did I hear you right? 35,000
Yes, sir.
horsepower?
Yes, sir.
And you guys know how many tons of toxins that emits into the air
We-
on a yearly basis? Or would you like me to read you those figures?
We will be permitting the air compressor with DEP and EPA.
The communities that you're going to run a gas through should be, can you please disclose to this community how much toxins you plan for that facility to dump into the air in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, so they know what you're doing to their neighbors?
I actually don't have the exact numbers.
I can read you numbers for a 9,400 horsepower facility that's being proposed in Milford, Pennsylvania, and you're proposing one almost 4 times that size. A 9,400 horsepower gas compressor station will emit 46.2 tons of nitrogen oxide a year, 98.3 tons of carbon monoxide, 0.31 tons of sulfur dioxide, 7.62 tons per year of particulate matter, 3.41 tons per year of volatile organic compounds, 0.62 tons per year of hazardous air pollutants, and over 50,000 tons per year of greenhouse gases. You're proposing a facility 4 times that size. And you should disclose the toxins that this facility will emit to everyone along the route of the pipeline at every one of these meetings.
All right, I'm gonna let this lady go forward, then I want to put the students in between you, so
Good evening. My name is Tess Sorrenti, S-E-R-R-A-N-T-I. I'm the resident of Stockton. And besides the very well put evidence that the gentleman made ahead of me, at that point, what in your mind, given the presentation that you made, ma'am, do you believe are the benefits, besides the risks, the health hazards and everything else? What do you think, that vague concept there about the distribution of the gas to those 4 locations and employment, which doesn't really regard us as residents, because none of us are being employed in the pipeline. But that aside, what in specificity do you regard as benefits to each and every one of us for doing this?
Jack Herbert with NJR. The benefit of the pipeline overall is basically it's driven by the demand in the state of New Jersey. Looking at this frame. Now, well, the demand for the pipeline is for overall residential.
people in the back, let them speak.
The benefits that come back to Delaware Township, whether there's an opportunity to expand gas services in Delaware Township or not, we'll try to pursue that where and when possible. Elizabeth Town's dedicated to that. In addition to, you'll contact Elizabethtown Gas, they're going to look to try to expand their services in Delaware Township off the PennEast pipeline. We are going to work with them to try to expand service into Delaware Township. In addition to that, you'll have stable gas prices that will benefit your electric rates. The electric right now is driven by gas. Gas prices are volatile without stable supply from ourselves and stable pricing that we get out of PennEast pipeline. And our electric rates will continue to be volatile and spike during the winter period. So the overall benefit to Delaware Township really gets driven off of expanded gas service possibilities, in addition to stable electric rates instead of having exposure to electric rates spiking in the future.
But we won't get the benefit of that. We're going to get all the negatives, health hazards and
Are
everything
you
else.
an electric customer?
I'm sorry?
Are you an electric customer?
Of course, look, that has nothing to do with it. I didn't ask about being an electric customer. I'm already talking, I have third-party supply, so, and I might have solar. That is not answering the question. Yeah, and the New Jersey Product Light is not part of this anyway. So that does not answer my question.
Hold on one second. Kristen has a follow-up here on that question.
I just have a question. On 2 separate occasions, we as a township committee were specifically told that we would not get gas. And I'm just wondering where now in the last 2 weeks that's changed.
Jack Herbert and JR. Speaking on behalf of Elizabethtown and PennEast, Elizabethtown needs to answer that question as well, but Elizabethtown is committed to trying to expand their service territory into Delaware Township where it's feasible. The PennEast pipeline should create an improved feasibility for getting gas service in Delaware Township, but it still has to be evaluated. You have to work with the citizens who want gas and what's the best possible way of getting gas in this region.
Since I have the mic, I get to ask one more follow-up question. I actually was at the Hopewell meeting, and my understanding there is Elmrush Park residence, which is a fairly dense development, particularly compared to what exists in Delaware Township. On 5 separate occasions, they're half a mile from the hookup, they were denied gas. So I'm just unclear, and quite frankly, I mean, I think it's a bit disingenuous, the people in this township telling them that you're going to explore a feasibility study of getting it, where you have a much more densely populated area in Hopewell Township that you denied over the last 10 years.
Wow. Again, I can't speak specifically for Elizabethtown, but with the PennEast pipeline, the ability to deliver directly into Elizabethtown's territory here in Hunterdon County, it's going to give them greater expandability with their system, having access to supply in the region that they didn't have before.
I guess I have one. I've heard recently one question that wasn't.
Hey, state your name and where you're from.
Richard Burkholder, I live on Burkholder Road, Burkholder. And I guess so far I've heard the first question, which wasn't even answered at all, a couple of don't knows, and one, well, maybe someone else will help with this, but I can't guarantee that. I'll just punt the ball down the field. In other words, somebody might help us if it works out. So I haven't heard a single actual guarantee yet. So I'll go back and ask the first question, which is, on what basis is someone required to allow you access to their private land? In Florida, you can shoot someone for doing that. On what basis are they required to do that, to allow you entry? Can you please answer that question, because you completely avoided it when it was asked.
Dante D'Alessandro, I guess the quick answer to that question is you don't have to grant them access.
So you've answered. There's no reason at all, if I understand you, that anyone has to ever allow anyone from your outfit to access their property.
That's right.
So why would anyone want to do it?
Some people do.
Okay. Then I'll have, because I have to have some sense of how well you understand the community which you're pushing this, want to put this thing through. What would be your best estimate of what proportion, what percentage of folks here use natural gas as the primary means of heating their home? Anyone want to take a guess? Because I asked this a month ago, and the answer was 0.
We do have natural gas.
Let me ask this again. Well, everybody put their hands up.
Well, hold it. I'm taking over the meeting here. Excuse me. What aspect do you say that Delaware Township doesn't have natural gas?
I'm asking how many people use natural gas as the primary means for heating their home.
in Delaware Township.
I'm asking you, the question is, what proportion of people, could people put their hands up if they use natural gas as the primary means for heating their home?
Well, I guess the question has to be first, what residents are from Delaware Township here?
Okay, let's do another one. How many people are residents of Delaware Township
All right, now,
who use natural gas as the primary means of heating their home? I think that's 1 out of about 300 people in the city. Okay.
all right, so
I
now
bet you we have more people using solar than we have using natural gas.
we have the gentleman from Elizabethtown Gas.
My name is Kipling Lockhart from Elizabethtown Gas. Your question would be, we have 109 customers in Delaware Township that receive natural gas.
That wasn't the question. The question was, what proportion, how many people here, lots of us, how many people use it as the primary? There's a lot of specious claims being made in your press release about providing jobs. None of them relate to this community. I can say there's casualties here and I'm going to give temporary jobs to grave diggers. Come on. How many people do you expect to provide jobs to people in this township? And if so, could you document that? I hear silence. Okay, I'm through asking questions. They either get punted down the road, they don't get answered, they get avoided, or they said somebody else might help.
Thank you. I want to thank you for your talk. I'm sorry I didn't get your name. I have one major question.
Can you give us your name and
I'm
your
sorry.
address?
I'm Kelly Wheaton. I've lived here over 30 years. My land is in farmland preservation. I love it in farmland preservation, so does my son. However, in your wonderful proposal, what I hear is there is a yay and a nay phase. And the yay and the nay phase can be a couple of months, or if we go right to 2015. But I don't see the yay-nay in both corners. I see the yay-nay as basically you. And this is just cumulative, I'm sorry. I don't hear this, I'm one of them. I don't hear that I have a yay or nay. I have you coming up, and I think I have lovely land, and I'm sure there are things that you could find there. But I don't actually hear the same thing that you are granting yourselves, which is a very definite yay or nay. And I don't have that right unless I've missed something that you said. That's my question.
Thank you. You had, as we stated earlier, you had the ability not to allow us to come on the property to do the initial survey work. As you go through the process, again, there will be an opportunity. Let's say we think, okay, your property looks like a good site for the pipeline equipment. We would come back to you then and ask permission again, could we use your property for the permanent right-of-way? You still have the ability to say no. We will continue through the FERC process. They will look at all the many different factors, all of the different resource reports. If we meet all of the criteria, the FERC criteria, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, DEP, all those different agencies, if we meet all those standards, at the end of the process, FERC and those resource agencies will make a decision whether or not this project would go through. If FERC makes a decision that we've met all of the criteria, we've met all the standards, and we can move forward with the pipeline. At the end of that process, FERC gives us what's called eminent domain powers. That is at the point in which
All right, come on, people.
I will not even be able to say anything to you except for one thing. The yay-nay matters a lot to a person who had a beautiful pond purchased with the purchase of that beautiful pond. And it was confiscated and said, it could be eminent domain, but we're not paying you. We want to keep your waterway so that it can fill waterways going downstream like Sarteesville. So for that, you may not touch your pond again. You may not do anything to it. You can't clean it. And after a while, it was pretty obvious that there'd be no water flowing anywhere. And I never was given a yay or nay, and that is why I'm asking now, because it actually feels hostile to have someone select and just, yeah, it's a wonderful place, but don't I have the right to say no thank you?
Hi, my name is Ray Papalski. It's P-A-P-A-L-S-K-I. I live on Lockdown Flemington Road with my wife and two daughters. Not to beat a dead horse, but I called Elizabeth Town Gas several years ago, last year, 3 weeks ago, to try to get natural gas to my home. It was told I'm 1.8 miles away from Route 12. There are no immediate plans or long-term plans to ever provide me with gas. So my question again is, what can you do to better give me some assurance that this project is actually going to benefit us in Delaware Township, or we just have a pipeline that goes through, so we have to put up with the eyesore that we're going to get from it. So I would urge the council to do everything you can to block it until we get that assurance that we're actually going to benefit from this pipeline here by getting natural gas in our homes. Thanks.
My name is Kathy Klink, K-L-I-N-K. I'm a teacher here for about 30 years, and I've lived in the township for 38. I've been involved in very many environmental projects. My big question is the natural habitats of Delaware Township. What studies has your company done to ensure and validate that what you restore is actually equal to what existed prior to pipeline construction?
It goes through a long process. One is the initial identification of the resources, the assessment of the quality of those resources in accordance with the federal, state, county regulations and requirements. Then it goes through the environmental permitting on the federal, state, county, local level. Once we receive approval for the construction, it approves the different types of construction methods that are used. It approves the best management practices that are used during the construction time period. It also requires that environmental inspectors are on site to ensure that those conditions expressed by the federal, state, county, local agencies are applied consistently during the construction time period. Following construction, it goes through the restoration and mitigation sequences, and then it is monitored for a minimum of 5 years by the Corps of Engineers. It is monitored with respect to the conservation districts and Department of Ag until the quality and level of production is equal to or better than what it was before the construction time period.
And those are available online to look at. Those studies are available online to look at from other projects that you've done.
Yes, if you go on the FERC website, if you go through the full life cycle of the project,
I understand the process. I just want to know that there are assurances out there. Also, about 6 years ago, the Delaware Township School Environmental Commission Congress, sorry, I'm on the commission, was started. Over the years, this group has accomplished much. Trail work, they collect recycling from throughout the school's classrooms. They present environmental programs to younger students. They've done waterway cleanup, and they've done a bottle cap collection. These are this year's officers. I'm going to introduce them to you. And oh, by the way, March on Litter is October 11th. Shay, Anya Baird, Shay Taggart, and Luke Hannon.
My name is Anya Baird, B-A-I-R-D. The proposed construction for the PennEast pipeline has potentially serious consequences for New Jersey's wildlife. Risk to wildlife can be caused by the removal, alteration, and fragmentation of habitat. For example, a box turtle is an organism that lives in both field and woods habitats. Cutting a huge swath of either habitat would be disruptive to the box turtle because the box turtle would not be able to find what it needs to survive. How wide would the right-of-way area be? Another concern is for the various streams, rivers, and creeks in which the pipeline will intersect. For example, our C1 creeks are home to the native brook trout and other native organisms. Disturbing these creeks would cause the extinction of these native organisms. What are the safeguards in place to protect these waterways from a potential catastrophic pipeline failure?
You want me to answer the questions one at a time, or wait for the group? Okay. With respect to the width of the right-of-way, we're looking at a 50-foot permanent right-of-way for the pipeline following construction. With respect to brook trout and water quality, the construction methodologies that we're exploring and evaluating at this time are what they call dry crossings, dry construction, in order to maintain the integrity of the water. That would be using a flume pipe, a dam and pump, a bore, or horizontal directional drill. And that way you're not doing an open cut through the moving water during construction, so that you can maintain the oxygen levels, stop the sedimentation from going into the stream systems, and keep the fishery resources intact.
What do you do if you hit solid bedrock?
That, there'll be a geology.
We have creeks with solid bedrock.
One of the reports that's required by FERC is geology, and we will be mapping the geology as we go along with the work. I'm sorry. One of the resource reports required by FERC is called geology. Mapping the geology along the entire proposed pipeline right-of-way, and we will be doing geotechnical studies at the different crossings to determine where there is rock present, whether it can be cut by using what's called a mechanical ripper, or whether it can be cut using a bore, directional drill going across through the rock. Depends on the different types of substrates, and the different qualities of the rocks, as to the different engineering construction techniques that would be used.
Again, these studies are available to show that there's been no negative impact to the original creek.
Correct. The permanent right-of-way is 50 feet.
I think you gotta wait, I apologize, but we gotta keep going here.
Hi, my name is Shay Taggart, Taggert. Marshes and wetlands are found along waterways in Delaware Township. These habitats are home to a big diversity of vegetation. This large diversity of vegetation supports many organisms. In particular, this is the migration season. On a recent birding trip, our Delaware Township School Birding Club was able to report 3 uncommon birds to our area: a broadwing hawk, a black-billed warbler, and a yellow-bellied sapsucker. We were able to see these because of the preserved habitat. Separating any of these habitats creates fragmentation, making it less available for the native organisms that belong here to survive. What safeguards do you have in place to keep these habitats a place for native plants to survive, thus ensuring the survival of the animals that use them?
One of the first steps, as you heard earlier, is we asked permission to survey for wetlands. All of the wetlands will be surveyed along the corridor. Where we can't get survey permission for access, we will use a combination of aerial photography, mapping, remote sensing data, hydric soil maps to map the edge of all the wetland resources. For wetland crossings, specific construction practices will be used going across each wetland. One of those that is required by FERC under what's called their wetland and water body procedures is to neck down or minimize the construction work area to the maximum extent possible. It also puts constraints on the timeline for when you can cross that wetland or water body. So a small wetland or water body less than 10 feet on the right is called a minor crossing, and that has to be conducted within a 24-hour period. So again, you're trying to minimize the width of the impact, limit the time of disturbance you are in there. In addition, they limit the activities along the riparian zone, the banks of the streams or the wetlands that as you're going through them. They use such things as swamp mats, which are timber mats that are about 12 feet long by 16 foot long. They're linked together so that you can across the wetland area you're going to be working in to minimize the compression or compaction of soils. And as you're going along through there, again, so that you can work through that area with minimizing impact. You also take the wetland soils out, and if they're not heavily saturated, you side pass them to the side, and you keep them segregated from this underlying soil so that all the organic matter, the seeds, roots, and rhizomes within that soil is stockpiled to the side and can be put back into the wetland following the installation of the pipeline on the tile to make sure the vegetation goes back for the same species.
My name is Luke Hanna, H-A-N-N-A. Nature has always been an integral part of my life growing up, and also a part of the lives of many students in Delaware Township. As younger individuals, the environment will be ours for a much longer time than most other people. Because of this, we would like to keep it intact and allow endangered species and even common species to flourish. With the construction of this pipeline, the habitats of many of these species, both plants and animals, could be damaged. Delaware Township has many animals, ranging in abundance from rare to common. These animals can be endangered indirectly because the habitats of those animals are easily disrupted. What safeguards do you have in place to save the habitats of Delaware Township animals from destruction? The vegetation of Delaware Township is also very fragile. This vegetation is fragile because it can be destroyed a lot easier. The vegetation can be destroyed directly and indirectly. Indirectly because the habitat of the vegetation can be destroyed and there would be no place with the right characteristics for that plant to grow. Vegetation can also be destroyed directly because the vegetation can be completely destroyed by the construction of this pipeline. What precautions are you going to use to save the fragile vegetation in Delaware Township?
Thank you. Thank you, all of you.
Hello, my name is Wendy Getz, G-O-E-T-Z. I would like to expand upon a point that they made and an answer that you have. Down the line, if this pipeline is built and everything goes through, that wetlands mat, when the pipeline companies come back to do their maintenance, that mat becomes a wood bridge in the wetlands. Now that maintenance also does not have to be permanent. That maintenance just comes in to a telephone call. And there is no oversight at all on the maintenance of the pipeline in your town. If you would like to join us watching the Milford compressor station up there, and they had in Montague, the Northeast Upgrade Pipeline built last year. Right now, the hill on Montague is being torn apart for just such maintenance. That's my first point. On the back
I'm gonna just stop here for a second. I mean, we'll have open comment later. I mean, what we want to do right now is have questions so they can answer.
For this particular company, when you go back and do your maintenance, do you utilize those same wetland mats that are rubber, or are you going in and using, you're bringing in 2x4 type bridges in the wetlands specifically?
Dante Dallas. Typically, the timber mats put in for construction, but they are pulled out after construction is completed, so that the entire right of way can be restored. And if maintenance were needed to be done back to those wetland areas, we would have to go back, re-mat the wetland, file for permits, do the appropriate maintenance controls for the duration of whatever that maintenance period.
Is that something particular to this township? Because in another township in New Jersey, that's not happening.
Not that I know of. And if I'm not mistaken, Bernie, isn't that a requirement of FERC as far as how to map a wetland, how to rebuild a wetland when we're done with construction, how to pull a map, indicate what species of plants to replant in the wetland, how to restore the wetland back to the original condition. That's all.
That kind of brings me to my next question. My question is, why are you not informing, just specifically, the residents here and anybody that they can become a FERC intervener? So if you follow your map on this page, at the very bottom, you see on the second box up, it says parties can request FERC to rehear decision. They should be informing you, if they're informing you with complete transparency on the FERC process, that when their permit application goes in, you can intervene on the FERC website for this particular docket number and become an intervener.
I think,
my question is, why have you not explained the complete process?
well, I think first the township already has thought about it, and we are going to be interveners in the process. So, right, and individuals can do it too. So, I mean, I don't know where your question's going after that.
Would you like, okay, I can move on to.
No, I'd like the next person to go up. I mean, if you want to get...
My 3 minutes is up?
Yes, thank you.
I'm Lisa Thompson. I live here in Delaware Township, Thompson. I have 2 questions, if I may. The first is, as you know, we have a nice, sleepy little town here. We've actually got a pretty good turnout for tonight. We have a small professional police department and an even smaller volunteer fire department. If this pipeline goes in, we're at a significant risk for accidents, explosions, and all sorts of things that can happen. And I just want to make sure, I wanted to ask PennEast, if the pipeline gets built, who's paying for the additional training and the additional equipment that our services are going to need to keep us safe?
This is Dr. Dallas. Speaking from past pipeline projects, when the pipeline, even before the pipeline is put in service, we will go out to all the local emergency management agencies, the local fire companies, police departments, introduce ourselves, introduce the project to them. We provide training to them. We'll help become involved with the county's EMA department to talk about how to issue emergency calls, how to respond to emergency calls, actually have our operational folks involved in the emergency calls. We'll have an emergency plan developed. All those local companies will have a copy of that plan. And we will reach out every year and do a refresher class with all the fire companies and police departments. We also typically make a donation to all those companies once a year. We understand that we will be active in the community, and there could be a potential increase in calls for things that are happening along the right of way, and we recognize that. So we typically provide donations to help with that. Not to mention, as Elisa mentioned in her presentation, that there's a significant tax benefit that the township will be recognizing as part of this project.
Both Mayor Domek and I were very surprised at that number. How did you get that number? Because we actually asked our tax assessor to run the numbers, and we came out with $400,000 a year, $40,000 of which was direct to the municipality. The other monies were approximately $160,000 to the Delaware Township School, Hunterdon County, Hunterdon County Schools. So 5.2 million over 5 years, but if 400,000, correct my math, I'm not always the brightest in math, but 400,000 times 5 is not 5.2 million.
Tony Cox with PennEast. It should go without saying that the New Jersey tax code is complicated, but as we've attempted to quantify the estimate, we've looked at a lot of different things and hired the services of outside consultants to help us understand better the tax code and the application of property tax for this, and to provide an estimate. It is subject to an assessment that's out of our control, so we've made some assumptions there and millage rates and so forth.
So what we'll do, we'll come to you, we'll bring our consultant to sit down with your tax assessor and we can debate. If it's, the correction is needed, we will put it in your notes and we'll make sure you have it. But we will put the two together.
Can we use your tax assessor on our other pipelines?
I have a second question. Since the news of this reached us, I've been doing a lot of research online into the shale gas extraction processes and where the gas is, how it comes out of the ground, what happens to it. And from sources that I've found online that do not seem to have a direct economic benefit from the fracking industry, the information seems to be that the supply of available gas that we can get from fracking is dropping off. In fact, that the only still viable, I guess you would say, pocket of gas is Marcellus Shale, that all of the others are starting to drop off dramatically. So with that in mind, I would like to know what PennEast's long-term plan for this pipeline is. In 10 years, what's going to be going through it?
I think Tony Cox with PennEast. I think we're going to have to agree to disagree on the viability of long-term gas supply. In fact, the Marcellus is by far not the only reservoir that's producing gas and capable. In fact, there are new discoveries being made all the time as technologies improve. Depths of wells get deeper, extraction technologies advance, and so forth. And in fact, in Pennsylvania, there are a number of different reservoirs, not just the Marcellus, but the Utica, the Genesee, and so forth. And there are, as I mentioned, a number of other plays across the country that are being explored, some more profitably than others in terms of the efficiency, in terms of getting the gas out of the ground. But the other thing I would mention is that the long-term viability of the Marcellus and the Utica, both of which are potentially serve as sources for this pipeline, are extremely long-lived. We have literally only touched the tip of the iceberg in terms of the development of the Marcellus. The Utica hasn't even been delineated fully. So we are truly looking at generations of supply, not just 10, 20, 30 years. But if the pipeline were to stop receiving natural gas for some reason, the pipeline would be taken out of service and decommissioned.
Good evening. My name is Paul Anastasio. It's a long last name. Anastasio. I come wearing two hats this evening. Hats of a resident and a businesswoman. The first hat is I came here in 1986 to raise my son who was 4 years old in clean air and a beautiful environment. How can you guarantee when my son moves here, my grandchild's born, that they will have clean air, the same as my son, without toxins? You can't guarantee that. Number two, we talk about wetlands and disturbance. The word is violation and disturbance. Any way you cut it, it's disturbance and violation of wetlands. Now I will talk to you as a real estate agent for 37 years. How can you guarantee these people that there will not be a stigma on their land? You cannot, because I sell properties with right-of-ways and pipelines that are stigmatized and their values are less. I'm going to tell you something that just happened this week. We have a listing on 51819 in Kingwood. There was a nice couple who wanted to buy that house. They looked at the map. They withdrew their offer. That is only the beginning of the fear, of the unknown, and how can you ever compensate these people for the loss of the values of their homes? You cannot guarantee that. You are going to pay them a usually right-of-way that will last forever? Because in the past, poor farmers who had to pay for their kids to go to college in the 30s or 20s or 40s put those big lines in, put the gas lines in, and didn't understand what happened in the long term. But, gentlemen of this group, we're looking at an educated, experienced township that's unbelievable, that will fight for their children to have what I gave myself.
I don't know how long the line is, but when you do come up, please make a question. If you're going to state facts and all, we will do that after the pipeline leaves. We have an open session, so I mean, please address it as a question for the pipeline.
Hi, my name is Bruce Gage, Delaware Township. What's his name? Also, I have a question. Previously you stated that 4.7 million families could have gas as a result of this new pipeline, yes? Of that 4.7 million people, how many of those are protected in Hunterdon County?
Sorry, sir. The 4.7 million is, that number is a calculation based on the amount of capacity that will go through the pipeline and what the average home would actually use in terms of...
That doesn't answer my question. Of those homes, surely you must have done some research on the people that you're going to be rampaging to the communities with this pipeline would benefit if you're counting the benefits of this pipeline. Well, how many people in Hunterdon County will benefit by being able to get natural gas? Do you know, yes or no?
The response we gave earlier about Elizabethtown Gas wanting to extend service to Mercer, Huntington, and other counties here in New Jersey is the answer.
Okay, well, even if that were to come, there's no local infrastructure to accommodate that. So that would mean then more pipelines, more derivative lines, more lines being one of those people's properties to service those customers. So basically, your pipeline is just the beginning of a pipeline network going through not just the proposed pipeline, but branching out from there all over. You've also, yes, if gas is going to be supplied to residents of the counties that you're running your line through that don't have infrastructure now to provide local homes and businesses with gas service, they're going to have to be built. Plus, you also touted at the beginning of your presentation, low-cost gas. Define that, please.
Could you repeat the last part of your question?
She stated at the beginning of your presentation that this pipeline result in low-cost gas for the 4.7 million people who will benefit from this. I'm asking you to define what low cost is.
I think it's important, first of all, when we talk about the 4.7 million, that's an opportunity to try to quantify what 1 BCF per day means in terms of gas. That's how much gas could be used. Not to suggest in any way that we're proposing that 4.7 million people are going to all of a sudden start using gas that didn't use it today. What we're talking about is the quantity of gas. And just to put it in perspective, a fairly large power plant could use a fifth of the capacity. Fifth of the capacity would be used for a fairly large natural gas fired power plant, a number of which exist in this part in New Jersey, on the Delaware River, that power each and every one of your homes today. To ask the same question that we asked earlier, what are the percentage of people here that use natural gas for your homes, that number is very low. If I ask the question how many people in this audience are using electricity that is made from natural gas, the number would be very, very high. Almost
so
everybody.
My electric bill is going to go down. Is that what you're saying?
That is the point.
Okay, how much? You said low cost. Give me an idea. 10% lower than now? 20%? 50%? How much?
Prices for power, for natural gas, are based on supply and demand. It's as simple as that. And the more demand there is, without adequate supply, the more the cost will increase. And that's exactly what we saw last winter, where there was a shortage of supply, and the demand was at its all-time peak, and we saw power prices and natural gas prices that went off the charts higher than we've ever seen, even during Hurricane Katrina.
So what you're really saying is you have no guarantees at all that any of us are going to benefit financially from this.
What I can say is without pipelines like PennEast pipeline, prices will go higher, and and gas will become less available for power production and other sources.
All right, now, we got to go to the next question here. No, we got to go to the next question.
Gas available in Marcellus, and now you're saying there's not.
All right, next question, please.
Garofalini, Garofalini, of Delaware Township. You had a slide up there that had 0.01% of transportation accidents to be attributed to pipeline. What is that based on, the transportation? What are the transportation accidents you're talking about? All transportation accidents? Okay, so you're talking about all vehicles, etc. There's anywhere, depending upon any particular year, anywhere from over 5 million to over 6 million traffic accidents in the U.S. alone. So 0.01% says that there's going to be over 500, over 600 pipeline accidents per year. Divvy them up among the states, and that means just 50 states, that means over 10 accidents, pipeline accidents per year. And you came in and didn't have an idea of what the kill radius would be, the damage radius would be, and yet you're willing to point out 0.01% as if that's good. And yet we're talking 10 pipeline accidents per year, putting them near homes. How many of you, given a 1 mile kill radius, how many of you are willing to go to jail for murder if something like that happens? Raise your hands.
I think
you're not raising your hand. Don't say you're not raising your hand. I saw you raise your eyebrows when somebody had a comment, but you're not raising your hand. None of you are willing to put anything online. We have to. Thanks.
My name is Sam Thompson. My last name is spelled Thopson. I wanted to follow up on the question that was just asked. You said that many of the accidents that are caused with pipelines are caused by third-party damage. How many accidents, pipeline accidents, are caused by third-party accidents when there's no pipeline present? Do I need to email my question to your 12-hour hotline to get an answer to that?
I don't think they can answer that.
This question, I think, has been asked in a few different wordings. I would like to know how many people use natural gas to heat their homes that are along the proposed route of the pipeline. I understand that you're here for Delaware Township, but I would like to know from its inception to its endpoint, how many people are using natural gas to heat their homes along that entire pipeline? Because that's the people that you're going to be encountering at each one of these events as you go forward. Is that true? Also, something I need to submit to your website? Can you get an answer tomorrow?
It obviously depends on the township. Some townships there are thousands. Some townships there are not as many.
So can you sum that up?
Sure.
Township to township?
Sure, we can.
Yeah, what is that number?
I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but we know that number.
You do know that number? Okay. And then...
All right, Sam, I gave you two.
I'll come back.
The line's going back.
Ed May, I live on Down Station Road, that's M-A-Y. I've got a question and a bit of an observation. My first question is, when you did the tax revenue valuation of, I think it was $5.2 million over 5 years, something like that, did you take into the value of the properties that you're leaving to take through condemnation eventually? Did you take into consideration that these are preserved properties, most of them? And that most of the development, that all of the development value of these properties, which is a substantial value in any property of this size, have already been purchased by the township, by us. And I guess my point is that we all have invested in these properties, as well as the owners who basically gave up their ability to sell the properties maybe at a developer, a much greater benefit to themselves and to their heirs. But they decided to keep those properties beautiful and rural and open space and sell to the state and the township, the development easement. And now you're going to take those properties and, from what I understand tonight, potentially put a 36-inch high-pressure gas line through, tear those properties up, change the drainage of those properties, patch them up, and then put vented pipes in them, tear through woodlands, and destroy the environment and the scenic beauty of this township.
Okay, and just the question. Let's get to the question.
So I just want you to know that that is a consideration that maybe you should take again when you value, when you revalue the benefit to this township, is the fact that you're getting fairly cheap land because we've already paid for it. Thank you.
My name is Norman Torkelson. I'm from 18 Rissler Street, Stockton, New Jersey. Last Tuesday at Hopewell Township, you were asked if you have considered alternative routes via co-locating pipelines with other existing right-of-ways. For example, it was talked about the Transco pipeline, which follows a more environmentally friendly route from point A to point B, without going through the Delaware watershed. PennEast said that you'd look into it. Just late last week, Diamond East LLC announced that announced their open season for just such a pipeline to be co-located on the Transco pipeline. My question is how many pipelines can be co-located within that 100-foot right-of-way? We also talked about, and I'm asking again, how many...
I guess let's answer that first question, please.
Bernie Holcomb, I'll start with the environmental on co-location. We looked at a wide range of co-location, including Transco, electric transmission lines, road, rail, water sewer, any of those lines that were open between the beginning points in Luzerne County, the delivery points in Pennsylvania, and the delivery points in of it formally into the FERC process. We have gone out and mapped along the Transco line and confirmed there's approximately, because we're still doing surveys and studies on that, the neighborhood of 19 of the different parameters that we've looked at, which have a greater impact by widening the Transco alternative. If you put it along there, then using another route through the area. And those studies are ongoing and will be documented in part of the FERC process as we go forward.
But excuse me, it seemed like Diamond East seemed that everything was just fine, or you decided to go some other way. Let me move on. I don't want to debate that. How many other pipelines are proposed or in the process in our beautiful Delaware Valley?
I can answer part of that. There's a number of different interstate pipelines as well as local distribution lines that are proposed. Part of the local distribution lines that are proposed are because of the aging infrastructure, where it's older cast iron pipe, and that pipe needs to be replaced, upgraded in order to continue the safe delivery of gas. The interstate pipelines are being, that I'm aware of, I believe there's 7 across Pennsylvania and New Jersey that are in different stages of evaluation with FERC. Those are different segments. Some are segments where the pipeline was originally constructed during World War II. And again, we are upgrading for to enhance the quality of the pipeline. Others are where they're looking at capacity for delivery units.
All right, I gotta go to the next person. I mean, we gave you 2 questions.
He ate up my 3 minutes.
But you ate up 3 before that. Larry, you're up.
Seems like they're throwing spaghetti against the wall here to see what sticks.
Larry Wall, 34 Zentech Road. Where are we now in the process of it? Where are you in the process? Are you in surveys, or are you in evaluating several different pipeline routes? Where are you with regard to Delaware Township?
We've looked at a number of different alternative routes already. We are conducting surveys, some surveys now, and so our land agents are requesting permission to do the surveys.
So you have a distinct route.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when the board member who recused himself earlier said that he had 6 properties that were affected by this, are they all 6 affected on the pipeline route that you've designed, or is there a scattergun approach where you're still evaluating multiple routes?
Are you specifically asking about the gentleman that recused himself?
I am.
I don't know where his properties are. I found that out tonight.
So those are on the route that you're planning,
I'm not
perhaps?
sure if he's on the center line route or if he's in a butter.
Let me see if I can clarify again. This is Bernie. When we sent out the letters requesting survey permission, we looked at a corridor. That corridor was 400 foot wide. We contacted all of the landowners along that corridor requesting survey permission so that we could evaluate the potential resources along there and see if where it would be able to place the line for the least environmentally alternative. We also notified abutters to that 400-foot corridor. We notified people within 1,000 feet on either side, so east and west. So a total notification of like 2,400 feet of the people, landowners along there. Some people are that were notified were abutter. Some people that were notified are potential landowners.
When you made your determination of the route, did you specifically look in terms of the criteria of what lands were being chosen? Was lands that were preserved, was that on a priority on your list of properties to be taken?
Yes, it's one of the 50 or so factors that we looked at. We reached out to
I asked.
Are you asking whether we evaluated where there was conservation?
No, I'm asking whether or not you took into consideration, just like you said, you have 50, you have a whole slew of conditions or things to look at, and one of them I take it from your answer is that if property is preserved, it may be more suitable for your needs.
That is not what I said, sir. You're contradicting me. What we were trying to do...
Larry, just rephrase the question.
I asked the question. I think I asked the question properly. I know. I was asking, is preservation of quality of the properties that you are choosing for the siting of this pipeline?
No, we did not look for preserved farmland and created a line based on it. Does that answer your question?
But did you take into consideration the value that you would have to pay for preserved farmland easements, or when you were evaluating how much you would have to pay these individual landowners, were you taking into consideration the fact that land was already deed restricted and preserved in your calculation?
We're at the stage right now where it's purely environmental. We did nothing to evaluate anything to do with land at this time. What we're looking at is mapping where the resources are. We went on to the federal, state, county databases, and we mapped out where there was conservation lands. The attempt was made to avoid, minimize, limit impacts to those areas as we're going through.
And I have one more question.
All right, make it quick, Larry.
I will. I've calculated that this municipality, utilizing both local, state, and federal funds and county funds, has utilized about $7 million to preserve lands in this municipality and on this route. And I just want to make, I have not heard anywhere in the process that we as taxpayers who voted for these taxes and have allocated tax monies for preservation, we're not getting reimbursed for that. We're losing that. And I just find that that's
It's S-Y-R-N-I-C-K. There are things like, just like carbon credits, I believe there are wetland mitigation banks where people in other parts of the state have mitigated wetlands and put those credits into a bank. And when I look at this map from Holland Township all the way through to Hopewell Township, you're crossing many, many different C1 streams and wetlands. Are you planning to restore all of these wetlands in situ, or are you going to use the mitigation banks, which with land restored in other places, to be able to destroy some of these wetlands to put your pipeline in?
This is Dante Dalson. On past projects, we've restored all the wetlands that we've gone through, but we've also, working with DEP and the Corps, have replanted other wetlands in off-site locations, sometimes on a scale of 3 to 1, to help improve wetland areas within the areas that we're going through.
So what I'm asking though, are you improving in other sections of New Jersey? And
I'm going to have to cut you short. I mean, we got to stay with Delaware Township here and address the issue.
No, I'm saying that they can cut through wetlands in Delaware Township and buy credits and restore elsewhere in New Jersey.
It's in the same watershed.
So just quickly, we look at all of the options when looking at mitigation, the banking, the replacement. It is our experience that we try to restore and replace within that watershed.
Okay, but within the township?
We will try to do that. What we usually do is we'll work with the local township and the state agencies to see what is a better situation. So I won't say it has to, because sometimes...
I'm going to have to cut you short. We're going to have to do one question, or we'll never get through tonight. We'll be here tomorrow morning.
Lesher. I'm a board member of the Sourland Conservancy, a local citizens group, a landowner in East Antioch Township. Ms. Harris, you stated during your presentation that this pipeline is definitely not being designed to export natural gas. That being the case, will PennEast pledge in writing that no gas that travels through this pipeline will ever be exported outside the United States?
So you can't actually, I'm sure you realize that you can't trace every single molecule. But I can tell you, this project...
Go ahead, finish your answer. Go ahead, here, finish the answer.
This project is not designed to be exported. The gas is not designed to be traveled to anywhere outside the local distribution companies. In Pennsylvania...
Hold on. Let her finish, please.
In Pennsylvania and New Jersey.
All right, next person.
Hi, I'm Karina Sales, S-A-Y-L-E-S, of Rosemont. I'm a landowner on a large preserved farm that my family preserved. We've been on for 5 generations. That's targeted for the pipeline, and also I've been on the Open Space Committee here for, I don't know, over 10 years. So after I preserved my farm, preserving all these other farms, so now I'm like, I think we preserve them for the people here and not for a pipeline or for you guys. And when I drove here tonight, I saw a beautiful rainbow, the best one I've seen. On the Rosemont Valley, people may have seen it. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. And I thought, the pot of gold at the end of that is for us. It's not for you guys, it's not for the people with hotel jobs or anybody else. So that's it. Anyway, I have a question about infrastructure, because I understand that this is more than just a pipeline, it's like a facility. So I'd like to know the vents or the bellwethers, how many of those, because you talked about the 10 miles between the shutoffs in your presentation. And again, with the small group of infrastructure people we have here, if something happens and there's a shutoff not for 10 miles, that could be, and you're not here, when it is a problem. So that made me think, okay, how many of the bellwethers that are venting are there? What is the space between those? And what is the space between the pumping stations? And the bellwethers are venting what exactly? Is it true that methane and radon are some of the things that they will be venting out? And also the second part is storage. Will there be where will the gas be stored? Will you be storing gas along this route? And will you be storing it underground? I have read that in some cases in depleted aquifers, they sometimes try to store compressed gas, or they do store it underground. And would that be happening anywhere here in Delaware Township?
Dante Alessandro. Try to answer most of these here. Storage, there's no storage facilities planned for this project. Shut-off valves were required. The code is very specific about where shut-off valves need to be. The facility is typically, the valve itself is underground. The above-ground structure is typically in a 25 by 25 square fenced-in area that has a bypass valve around it and actuate the valve. In some cases, that valve can have automatic actuation on it so that we can actuate it from anywhere.
How far apart are those?
By code, it depends on how densely populated areas are, but they can't be any further than 10 miles apart. So 10 miles at the most. I believe it's 4 miles, the closest they are.
Right, but if you have a less populated area, you probably have them closer together. Right?
They're further
Be
apart.
further, okay, the less populated area, okay. And what is coming out of there? What is it venting? Is there any methane and radon coming out of that?
I guess I'm a little confused at what you're referring to as venting. We don't put any vents on the pipeline itself, but
you know.
No, there are certain the compressor stations. The process of starting the compressors is running a vent that drives a starter. And that can be started using either compressed air or natural gas in that case. But there's no venting that's designed on the pipeline itself.
Okay, so you're saying that there won't be any leakage or any escape of dangerous gases like methane or radon from this pipeline facility in our township? Because that seems
Well, I mean, the maintenance of the project, there's surveys that are conducted annually. One of them is a leak survey. So every year we will be actually traversing the pipeline with sensitive equipment that can detect leaks. And if there are any that are detected, they will be addressed immediately. But the pipeline is not designed to purposely leak or
Okay, well, thank you very much. I would just like to comment that a lot of people who do this sort of construction have said to me, one of the most important things is to have an outside party inspect these things as they go on during the process of looking at putting them in and once they're in. And because, honestly, I don't think that I'd like to know more at some point from you guys about what outside third party would be inspecting things like these leaks and the structure and how it's, emitting things, etc. Thank you.
I live at 15 Reading Road. I also work for New Jersey Conservation Foundation, and actually I'd like the people that work at PennEast to look at these maps. These maps are maps that various nonprofits in the area have made based on your aerials that are on the internet. And what we've done is we've overlaid them on tax maps to show the preserved properties. So, are you really going to tell me all the land that is not white is preserved property? The brown land, the green land, and the outlined parcels are parcels that we believe the pipeline is going to go on. And you're telling me you haven't targeted preserved farmland? Okay, here we have another map, and again, they're not precise. Disclosure. We did the best we could based on what you had on the internet. This is the whole pipeline route. So anything that's orange or green, once again, is preserved property. And I'm sorry, but please, tell me again that you did not target preserved lands. Did you target preserved lands, yes or no?
This is Dante D'Alessandro. I can tell you that the start of the process was simply using Google Earth to tie point A to point B, which is one Kern County National Trail. And without having anything other than the terrain and what we're looking at from an aerial image. So the potential that you're going to be looking at areas that were open by laying that route out, that might be the case. Since the route was laid out, we then started bringing in local databases, state, federal databases for wetlands, known species, any known hits that have been that are in those databases. And when we learned about the preserved land, we also overlaid shape files of those properties. And I can tell you that in recent discussions, to the best that we can, we are taking a hard look at them and trying to see if there's any way to avoid them if it's at all possible.
Well, looking at this line, I think you'd have to move it a lot to avoid preserved property. But this takes me back to the fact, first of all, if you're doing this big of a project, I would hope you would start out with more information than Google Maps, that you might approach the state about their priorities and what their taxpayers have made a significant investment in. We're talking about the taxpayers of New Jersey. We have federal tax money in this preserved land. We have county tax money in this preserved land. We have money from everyone in this room, Delaware Township. Many of us here from poor pots of money have put money to preserve these lands. So, now my question is to you. Larry spoke about the land in Delaware Township. Just along the line, being a 7 million investment. Here we're looking at 5 towns. 5 times 7, guesstimate, 35 million. That's the taxpayer investment. Then you're looking at the landowners that made a choice to preserve their land because they thought it was the right thing to do. And they were often selling at below market value to make the deal go through because they wanted to keep their land green for their grandchildren. They wanted to be able to farm it. They wanted the woodlands to be undisturbed and the waterways to run clean. And I want to know how you are going to compensate all of these people.
It's a process. It's not that we haven't gone.
It's a moving target, is what it is.
But just keep in mind that the property that we're asking a right of way on, we're not asking to purchase it. We're just asking to use it. You are still going to be able to use the property like you are today. You're able to farm it if you're farming it today. If there is a part of preserving the property that you're concerned with that this pipeline is going to prevent, we can certainly talk about that and see if there's a way to help mitigate that.
Well, you're talking about cutting down.
All right, Alex, I gotta cut in here. I mean, we're at 10 o'clock already, so next person.
We're not going to.
No, I'm gonna go to the next person.
So I waited a long time in line before you changed the rule where our 3 minutes had to be one question. So since I have 2, I'd like to ask one in my capacity as a current landowner in Delaware Township and one in my capacity as trustee and president of Citizens Against the Pipeline. So regarding the latter, Ms. Erwin Sales asked you a question about underground storage facilities, but I think the way she asked it was easy to deny. So my question for you is, I understand that natural gas gets stored in underground aquifers where the geology is suitable. I understand that perhaps this hasn't been explored yet, but is there a no need for storage facilities for natural gas, not just in Delaware Township, but in this region, where now or in the future, if the geology that you do identifies depleted aquifers suitable for natural gas storage, your company or your parent company or its affiliates would consider seeking to pump natural gas into underground depleted aquifers for storage?
As an owner and operator of underground gas storage, and somebody who's very familiar with the market dynamics and the regional needs and things like that, there is not a regional need that is unmet. In fact, natural gas underground storage values are probably at their all-time low right now. I speak for UGI. We have no plans of developing gas storage anywhere, particularly not in New Jersey or along this pipeline.
My second question is, there's been a lot of comments about safety, risk areas, mitigation of environmental impacts, and in your own presentation you mentioned as part of your justification reducing our reliance on overseas sources of fossil fuels and energy. If we're going to talk about policy, one of the concerns that I have with respect to this entire issue has to do with safety. And if you look at the Congressional Research Service 2013 report entitled Keeping Americans' Pipelines Safe and Secure, Key Issues for Congress by Paul W. Parfumak of the Congressional Research Service. He's a specialist in energy and infrastructure policy. He has a few comments that I would like your opinion on with respect to pipeline safety and our big picture here, especially in light of the availability of safer, non-explosive, more sustainable sources of energy. I'd like your consideration of his findings that oil and gas line pipelines globally have been favorite targets of terrorists, militant groups, and organized crime. He then goes on to cite over 1,000 examples of actual attempts, successful and unsuccessful, at exploding oil and natural gas pipelines. He continues, in June of 2007, the United States Department of Justice arrested members of a terrorist group planning to attack jet fuel pipelines and storage tanks at the JFK International Airport. Natural gas pipelines in British Columbia, Canada were bombed 6 times between October 2008 and July 2009 by unknown perpetrators. Since September 11, 2001, federal warnings about Al-Qaeda have mentioned pipelines specifically as potential terror targets in the United States. In January of 2006, federal authorities acknowledged the discovery of a detailed posting on a website reportedly linked to Al-Qaeda that reportedly encouraged attacks. Detailed posting on a website. Sorry.
All right, let's get to the question, I
On
guess.
U.S. pipelines using weapons or hidden explosives. In November 2007, a U.S. citizen was convicted of trying to conspire with Al-Qaeda to attack a pipeline and a major natural gas pipeline in the eastern United States. That person went to jail for 30 years. So in light of this, how do you justify the economic benefit against the risk, the big picture risk, and the sensibility of laying thousands of miles of pipeline, whether it's distribution, transmission, beneath our farms, beneath our lands, near our schools? How do you justify that? And will some of the other federal agencies involved in national security be commenting on the impacts and analysis of this?
National security is obviously a big issue, and it's something that I think we all take very seriously. And in fact, certainly pipelines, all forms of energy and the things that we rely on as Americans are critically important and are targets. Whether they be power plants, whether they be solar facilities that could be destroyed, there could be a number of different things that could be done. And obviously, our vigilance is critical, and federal oversight on these things is very critical as well.
How are you vigilant about thousands?
All right, I got to go to the next question because at 10:30 I'm going to cut the questions off. So please ask your questions.
Hi, my name is Leah Plummer. I live on Brookville Hollow Road, and I have 2 quick questions. One is, I thought the easement was 100 feet wide, but you're saying it's only 50 feet wide? And do landowners have any right to restrict that easement to only this pipeline that's going through? To no other use except for the one pipeline going on that 50-foot easement?
Yes, so the right-of-way, the survey permissions and any final right-of-way easements would just be for PennEast pipeline.
PennEast pipeline, the company, or PennEast, the one pipeline?
One pipeline. If we wanted to expand that pipeline on your property, we would have to come back to get your permission to do that.
And can you use eminent domain in that situation also?
It would be the same process.
So basically, we have no true rights to restrict the easement. And do you have the right to have a power line go on that easement? If you wanted to,
So is your question that we would transfer our permissions to an electric company so they can put something
well,
there?
it's my understanding that you own the easement. PennEast pipeline owns
Specifically for this pipeline project. We do not have, that final easement will not give us permission to do whatever we want outside the scope of this project.
So it's restricted to a 36-inch pipeline, and there's no other possibility that it could be anything otherwise, or can you use eminent domain?
We would go through the same process and reach out to you.
I mean, if we said no and everyone approved it, you would still have the ability.
If the expansion was for jurisdictional.
Okay,
Yes.
and my other question is, I don't know if you're aware, but many of the roads in this township are extremely small. They're one lane, some aren't even paved. And I'm fairly certain, looking at the map, that you will have to have construction vehicles on those roads. How is that going to be possible? I mean, you can't even, I once tried to have a U-Haul and the school bus, I had to back up a mile just so that, because we both couldn't get by. So what's going to happen? I mean, surely those trucks are going to end up going on people's property just to get down the road.
This is Tom Tedeschi. To the extent that roads are able to be used, we'll get them permitted for use for construction traffic. If not, the equipment, so permanent right-of-way, temporary construction easement would be up to 100 to 125. The extra room that's needed is...
Wait, you're saying that the temporary right-of-way is 100 to 125 feet wide?
Yes, total. So
we're all imagining 50 feet, but really you can destroy up to 100, 125 feet of area while you're getting your equipment moved around. Is that correct?
For that reason, so that trucks that can't access parts of the right-of-way from the road, the trucks will travel the right-of-way to actually get from one part of the job to the next.
So really, what you're saying, I don't know if you know this area very well, but there's no way the roads can't handle that equipment. So actually, it's what you're saying, it's probably more likely that you're going to destroy land, trees, shrubs, and creeks or whatever, just to get the equipment in there, because the roads are only, 1 car width wide.
Next person.
Can I just ask how long that process will be on those small roads?
The road will be evaluated if it can accept truck traffic or not.
Thank you.
My name is Susan Bivo, B-I-V-O, and I live on Warman Road. My question goes somewhat to what this other lady was talking about. Warman Road is also a single-lane dirt road, and we're one of the preserved properties that you're proposing to go through. We're next to it, and we have the Wickichioke Creek on one side, we have a smaller creek that runs along our road. The elevations there are quite interesting because down at the bottom of the Wickichioke, you're going to climb up another 150, 200 feet high to get back across the Warman Road and continue over across the creek to the Bodine Farm. And my question is I'm trying to envision how you are proposing to bore through that rock, bore through those hills. How do you propose to get from point A to point B with buffers? What are the buffers for these creeks? So how do you work within those buffers and the topography? Obviously, we have bedrock. The creek is a very minor road that goes through. How do you propose to handle that?
This is Dante Nelson. Within the creeks that are proposed across using a boring method, we do have equipment that is capable of drilling directly through solid rock, bedrock. We just completed a project where we had a 3,600-foot drill that was almost entirely through rock. So it is, the technology is there, it's capable.
What are the buffers? Where does it start? Where do you start and go underneath, and where do you come back up?
It all depends on how wide the creek is. There's only a certain ending radius that you can put on the pipe, so depending on how wide it is, it will determine how deep it is. You have to design it so that the entry point and exit points are within the bending radius.
And obviously, this line is underground. How deep is it underground?
It's a minimum of 3 feet.
Once this is in, let's say, and gas is going, is there a sensation, like when we're close or walking on top of the line, do you feel anything? Okay. Also, the second question is, do you have any historical data that will help to understand or what we can expect for our property devaluations because of this pipeline going through?
We have some studies that we can share with the township as a part of our question and answer. And if you require additional information, if you feel like you need more, we can provide that. I do have one study that I was reading through today that might be helpful.
Where, assuming that we eventually have to deal with the compensation aspect of this venture, how is that, where do you find your information to create a starting point, a dollar point? And what is our rights to negotiate it, to argue it?
Most often we'll consult with local real estate companies and get an idea of what property values are in the area that we're going to, and we'll use that to start. You can certainly negotiate the price. I mean, if it gets to a point where the negotiations aren't being constructive, and it ends up going to eminent domain, then there's a process where we convert that. Again, real estate agents will come in and help evaluate the property, and the FERC will actually dictate how much the value of the right of way is.
Okay.
All right, so I gotta let the next person go. Come on. You guys.
Hi, my name is Jason Russell. I live on Palmyra Road here in Delaware Township. In your presentation earlier tonight, you talked about the pipeline and the route, and although you said that it would benefit New Jersey, basically your tone was that there was a great need for this in Pennsylvania, And yet, when we get down to Bucks County, we basically just eliminate that. All the people that live in Pennsylvania, if there's such a great need, why is the pipeline not continuing down through Bucks County and then traversing over to your termination point in South? Because if the need is so great for Pennsylvania residents, and when it gets down to the termination point for the Trenton-Woodbury line, that natural gas is going to be distributed mostly down to South Jersey. Why should we in Delaware Township, where the benefits to this are minimal at best, why should we be permanently scarred to primarily benefit Pennsylvania and South Jersey residents?
Tony Cox. I think a couple of things. First of all, I think it's important to note the existence of some of the existing pipeline infrastructure, the interstate transmission systems that exist. And in fact, one of them originates in Hunterdon County, and that's an important one. And there are several others that are, the benefits to Pennsylvanians are either realized through the interconnections that we're planning in Pennsylvania with some of the interstate pipelines, as well as the local distribution companies that we'll plan on interconnecting with in Pennsylvania. But also, those pipelines, they flow both directions. And in fact, where some of those pipelines are moving backward from New Jersey into Pennsylvania, the need is not as great in Pennsylvania as it is in New Jersey.
But in the presentation, it was basically that the need was so great, and especially probably northern Pennsylvania, but where it's coming down here through Delaware Township, where a lot of the residents here, we did not ask for this. Why is this being thrusted upon us when it's been able to show on your map that you can traverse and get to your same endpoint going through southern Bucks County? And if this is Pennsylvania natural gas benefiting Pennsylvania residents, why is Bucks County being pretty much avoided? If you want to connect, going either if it's existing, if you said, more termination points, or if we're going to increase capacity for these pipelines at some point in the future.
I guess the question is, why are you going through Bucks County and not Hunter County? Very simple. I mean, go ahead.
And quite frankly, one of the biggest reasons is Elizabethtown Gas. Elizabethtown Gas has a high pressure pipeline that runs down to the Delaware power plant that's currently mothballed, but there's potential that it will be repowered in the future. But at any rate, there's a pipeline that goes there, and that is a significant interconnection with PennEast to serve Elizabethtown Gas's existing distribution system. And as Lisa explained earlier, there's a point A, point B, and there are various points in between. We try to find the path of least resistance and the path of least environmental impact and so forth. And that's where we are right now and where we're doing due diligence as we speak.
All right, I gotta go to the next. Excuse me, before you go up, I know this is the second question for you. Has anybody not given their first question? Can you come up first, and then we'll go ahead. We have time for the second questions.
Hi, my name is Eric Mackey from KNA-PZD. I have a question about the presentation tonight and also looking for clarification on something that was said last online. Earlier tonight you said that this is the proposed route and that it can shift. While I was online, I thought I heard you say, well, it can shift anywhere within 400 feet. So how wide is the variance in the proposed route you're considering?
The truth of the matter is it depends on what we find in that 400-foot survey corridor.
So this is really, this line within 400 feet of people we've already notified is the proposed route. There really is no other.
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. There are lots of things that we could encounter in that 400-foot buffer area. In fact, I will tell you with absolute certainty, we've already changed it out of that 400-foot survey corridor in some locations because of things we've found.
Right. My question had to do with the slide on the placement of the shut-off valves at every 10-mile radius. In looking at your website, I believe what I saw was that you said that is a class 1 type of installation with the shut-off valve every 10 miles. And that you were talking about a class 2 type installation for extra safety on this pipeline where these shut-off valves will be every 7.5 miles. So I see inconsistency between the website material you're presenting to us and the presentation you made tonight.
Hold on.
You're asking if...
1 second, she gotta change the tape on the recorder. Okay, go ahead down there.
Dr. Alessandro, are you asking if we're going to locate valves based on a class 2 location as a minimum?
That was what I believe I read on the PennEast website, that you were going to raise the level of safety for this particular pipeline. To the level of class 2, meaning there will be shut-off valves every 7.5 miles. And I believe a number of other attributes in terms of safety.
Yeah, the class 2 references the design, the safety factor that's used to calculate the required wall thickness within a specific area. So if there's an area that is classified as a class 1, we will not use a class 1 safety factor when designing the wall thickness. We'll use a minimum of class 2, which has a higher safety design factor for wall thickness.
So like I said, on the website it said class 2. The presentation tonight said class 1, which is lower safety level.
No, it's higher. It's a higher. Class 2 is
10 miles
higher.
apart shut-off valves.
I'm sorry?
You're showing it's 10 mile apart shut-off valves.
Yes. So we haven't in the past. We haven't carried that reclassification criteria over to shut-off valves. So if it's a class 1 area, but the pipeline wall thickness will have a thicker wall in a class 1 area.
At what point will you decide that it's not a 30-inch pipeline, it needs to be a 36-inch pipeline due to increased demand?
Yeah, I think, so again, as Lisa mentioned earlier in the presentation, we're still getting calls today of folks that are interested in capacity of the pipeline. We're expecting that might wrap up in the next month or 2 to 3 months, and at that point we'll have solidified the diameter of the pipeline.
Okay, that's like one that's on the record in if there is a leak, a large leak, which has happened, what will be the evacuation zone of that area, of the area? Do you have a specified evacuation zone for a 30-inch pipeline or a 36-inch pipeline? You can answer it later if you have to get back.
All right, next person.
Hi, my name is Austin Alice, resident here in Delaware Township. Just so I have an idea of who I'm speaking in front of, who here actually knows the actual process of how fracking works? Show of hands. Okay, hold on. So, who?
That's we gotta address the pipeline.
So, bear with me. I'm aware. So, and who here is just opposed to the process itself?
I think we gotta keep going to the pipeline now.
Give me a second.
I don't have time.
So, I know you don't. So, listen. The process of fracking, you guys have seen the videos, yes? On YouTube, people have lit methane on fire out of their water faucets. The earthquakes that happened in Oklahoma due to fracking. I just want to know how you guys can assure me that my neighbors where fracking is going on, I want to be assured that you're not poisoning them with methane and ruining the ground that they sit on. And how are you guys going to assure us that we are not going to have methane leaking down into our water supplies, or there aren't going to be massive environmental repercussions because of the soil that you guys are loosening up there? How is that not going to affect us, and how is that not going to affect the people in which you are fracking around?
I guess the answer to the first question is not fracking. The second answer is that gas doesn't travel down, it travels up.
Okay.
All right. Emmett.
You hear me all right? Too loud? Too close? William Wyman, W-Y-M-A-N. The gentleman with Ty from PennEast, did I hear you say that when you looked at your map, you planned this pipeline through areas with the least environmental impact, the least problem environmentally for people and all the rest? Is that what I heard you say? For the record.
For the record, when we were laying out the line and looking at it, we looked at over 50 different environmental parameters going through there.
Okay.
Trying to weed between the different ones.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm the former president of the Rosemont Water Company. Have you heard of it? Oh. Your pipeline is going through the Rosemont Water Company's wellhead protection area designated by the state of New Jersey on the DEP website IMAP for everyone who has internet connection to see. Exhibit A.
Okay, I need your question.
Okay, my question, well, that was my question. Did you see it? Here's my concern. Here. Did you turn me on? Oh, no. My concern is, yeah, gas rises. When you excavate, what are you actually going to be dislodging that's environmentally unsound that could be in that soil? What happens with gasoline or oil leaks from your equipment? What happens if the darn thing blows kaboom? What's going to happen to the water table then? I'm telling you now, Lancaster County had to move their pipeline out of that township for their wellshed protection area. You better do the same thing. Look at it. You turn it on. Going through Stockton's wellhead protection zone, designated by the state of New Jersey. Get it right or don't get it at all.
Could you explain the intake listing process? Coulis, K-U-L-A-S. K-U-L-A-S. You just integrity testing process, specifically what fluid you test with after construction and what kinds of equipment you use to ensure that there aren't any leaks?
Dante D'Alessandro. During construction, every well is x-rayed for integrity. Any minute imperfection in the well is fixed before the pipeline is buried. And at the completion of the project in sections, the pipeline is tested to 1.5 times its maximum operating pressure. And it's held there for about 8 hours. It's chart recorded with a calibrated pressure test chart recorder that's kept on file and available for state and federal auditing at any time during the life of the pipeline.
What do you test with?
It's tested with water.
All right.
Hi, John Kutik, K-U-H-T-I-K. I'm an artist, and I'm looking at the map, and I noticed the trail pipeline is kind of parallel to the river, and this may be a really crazy question, but have there ever been pipelines that actually run inside of a river, or maybe below a river? And how difficult would it be to produce that so that you're not running through people's property? Is it possible to do that type of work?
Excuse me, let him answer the question. Go ahead and answer the question.
I'm sorry, I'm not aware of any pipelines that have been sited down the course of the river or the water channel.
Okay, I know it potentially could have, you know, great environmental impact as well, but you know, just by looking at that map, it seems like some type of, you know, great engineering feat that could be done. And I don't know, one of my neighbors said that he is going to move to theory because everything works in theory.
All right, next person.
Good evening. I know you've been sitting here a while. I'm Debbie Bradley. I'm a homeowner. I'm an impacted homeowner. Your proposed pipeline will actually go right along my property and within 400 feet to 500 feet of my home. So my question to you is, you talked a lot about your factors and what works for you. What regulations impact you in terms of putting your pipeline right next to my home, number one? And number two, the fact that you came here and you couldn't answer for me where your kill zone is, I want to know if your pipeline explodes, are me, husband, 2 children going to be here due the next day about compensation? I don't want to hear about the third process. I want to hear what you look at in terms of putting these pipelines right next to people's homes. I'm sure you have cameras. How many of the pipeline? How close? 400 feet? And do you sleep at night? He said he lives next to the largest gas compressor station.
Let him go ahead and answer the question. Go ahead and answer the question. Brett, I think.
Sorry. Mr. President.
My one question is, what restrictions or regulations govern you in terms of putting a pipeline that close to a person's home?
Well, I mean, there are regulations that require bigger, safer margin of safety built into designing the pipeline, depending on how close you are to the building, a dwelling, other types of communities. As far as where we site the pipeline, again, we have to justify, you know, that the route that we selected and submit is the least impactful route. And if it's not, they'll let us know that it's not in the areas that we have to change and go back and look at it. We have to basically prove that we've done our homework, we've done our due diligence, and show them our route analysis and why we changed from our original route to the route that we proposed and submitted.
I guess they...
All right, you gotta go ahead.
Cindy Kitzner, KUENSTNER. My question is about compensation to landowners. Clearly, PennEast or their affiliate companies have compensated landowners, including farmers, for the taking of their land. By when will your company provide our township committee with the terms and conditions offered so that they can be posted on the township's website? And with this compensation to farmers for the reduced productivity and possible subsequent restricted use of their lands for digging or other farming operations?
So in terms of the process will begin for right-of-way acquisition and talk to the property owners, again, that route needs to have a lot more due diligence done on it before we get to that point. So it's going to be at the very earliest sometime, hopefully late next year.
I don't think that's the question I asked was when we provide the terms and conditions. The route is going through this township if the pipeline is put in and approved. So I'm not asking about individual landowners or the exact route. I'm asking when we provide this township with the terms and conditions that will apply to affected landowners.
Those are private contracts between the property owner and the company.
Interesting. Thank you.
Okay.
My name is Jeffrey Faber. I live on Strickland's Mill Road. If I heard earlier this evening, can you hear me now? Hopefully. This was going to invest $1 billion in constructing this pipeline. And if I was an investor in PennEast, perhaps in one of your limited partnerships, it seems that I would probably want maybe a 5 to 10% return on my investment. So that would lead me to think that you have full capacity for your line. So that would yield between $50 million to $100 million in profits and distributions to the limited partners. So I heard a little bit earlier this evening that you talked to the township about maybe paying $5 million over perhaps 5 years. So there seems to be, in my mind, a problem here. This was like an extremely profitable venture on the part of PennEast, just like these folks. I'm a resident here, and it looks like I'm not going to get any benefit at all. I have a preserved farm, and I'm certainly not going to be hooked up to gas. So I started to say, well, gee, what could be the benefit?
I guess you got to get to your question.
Okay, the question is, will PennEast release all the financial data, the projections on how much revenue, net profit, your expenses on this project?
Yes, absolutely. It's all part of the FERC process. That information is fully disclosed as part of the rate-making process.
And will that be township?
It's publicly available.
When will it provide it to the township?
When we file our 7C application next summer.
Well, why can't you provide it now? You've obviously done all your projections and analysis.
Because the contracts haven't been signed and there's a lot of...
No, that's not the question. This is not about contracts. This is not about individual contracts. This is about the financing, the capacity of your operation to go ahead, remunify these people. Do you have the money? What happens if the number is 50 million or 100 million? What are your projections? You know what they are. So release them.
I just want to make one point of clarification. The PennEast is not paying Delaware Township 5 years, $5 million. That's their tax bill. So it would be for however long their pipeline is here, and it'd be a yearly compensation. Obviously, the numbers don't add up, so we will get clarification on that moving forward, but I didn't want people to think that they were paying us a certain amount of money. They are not. They're
Who's PennEast owned by?
PennEast LLC. Who's PennEast owned by?
PennEast is owned by the 5 companies that were named earlier in the presentation.
Does Williams Partners whatever?
No.
No. Who is your major owner?
There are various ownership owners. And that's all public information.
All right, let's go to the next question. How many more people we got? All right, wherever we're standing, that's the end of the questions. Go ahead. Sorry.
Hi, my name is Laura Wilson. I'm from Holland Township. And I just would like a clarification. Earlier you mentioned that PennEast was not going through Bucks County because of Gilbert Electric Station, which is owned by NRG on 627, correct? You're entering our township, Holland Township, at the box factory owned by Georgia Pacific, which is about 4 miles, maybe 3 miles upriver of Gilbert Electric Station. You're going under the Delaware.
We are coming through Bucks County. I think it's less than 3 miles.
Right, but you're going under the Delaware, coming into Holland Township, going at the Georgia Pacific box factory.
All right, let's go to the question now.
Okay.
What's the question?
And it's just about 3-4 miles north of the Gilbert Electric Station. So at the Gilbert Electric Station, there actually are existing gas pipes going underneath the Delaware already, feeding the Gilbert Electric Station at this moment. Anybody can see that if you look on FEMSA, you can see the gas lines already.
So I need a question. What's your question?
Well, they said that they weren't going. They needed to come all the way through Delaware Township. They need to go through Delaware Township to feed the Gilbert Electric Station.
I'm not entirely sure which underground or which pipelines you're referring to go underneath the river, but Elizabethtown gas facilities that we're interconnecting with don't go under the river. Not at the Gilbert power plant.
Okay, and there's other existing lines that come through another existing that you could have gone through as well. You could actually just enlarge that actually go down another down the power lines that you have existing 8-inch Elizabethtown gas 8-inch pipeline that we know that you've actually already looked into widening.
Okay, so I guess your question is you're asking them why they use Elizabethtown gas line.
Why do you need to come through New Jersey?
Elizabethtown gas, I don't understand the question. Elizabethtown gas.
There's existing Elizabethtown gas line that comes through. There's power lines with an existing gas line that goes underneath them. I know this because they come from my property that go down straight down and feed the existing turbines in the energy station, which is Gilbert Electric Plant. Why are you not looking into enlarging those existing gas lines? Or
Well, I guess my question comes, how does it relate to Delaware Township then?
somebody asked, why are you coming all the way through Delaware Township? And they said because they were coming down to feed the Gilbert Electric Station as one of their points. And then that way they had to go all the way down through Delaware Township.
To be honest with you, I'd have to look at a map to see what you're referring to. It's not.
All right, let's go.
John Bradley, 4 Sanford Road, Stockton, New Jersey. I have a clarification on procedurally notifying the neighbors. The abutters, 1,000 feet of the abutters were notified. Is that true? I can tell you for a fact that did not happen on Sanford Road. That's the first thing. Second thing I'd like to ask, can you tell the farmers what limitations they're going to have for putting any kind of implements in the ground once that right-of-way is done.
The only thing that we're going to limit is building anything permanent on the right-of-way or planting any trees. The rest of it you can do as you're currently farming today.
Hello, my name's Tom Michelingo, 16 Hewitt Road, Stockton, New Jersey. My question is only beyond farming. I have a preserve farm which you're going to cut in half when you do this, and I farm many farms which you're going to do the same thing to. And the crops on those farms do not grow the same. There is an article this week in the Lancaster Farmer with Mr. Shank showing his cornfield, and the corn, this pipeline was put in many years ago, and the corn is a lot shorter and the yield is a lot less where your pipeline went through. How do you compensate farmers for years of crop that is not going to be worth anything because you cannot grow the same crops with the same yield after you go through?
I'll answer the question in two parts. First of all, I grew up in Lancaster County, and I grew up in the farmlands of Lancaster County, and I know very, very well. We've installed pipelines across a number of Amish and Mennonite farms where there is no noticeable impact whatsoever. I saw the same article that you're referring to. I know exactly what you're talking about, what the article you're referring to. But we have anecdotal evidence of just to the opposite. But I will also say, I appreciate that. The other comment that I would make is that there is a separate component of the right-of-way acquisition process that is intended to reimburse and compensate for damages, including crop yield, for some period of time, because that is anticipated that there will be some impact, but it's very short in our experience.
Next question.
I would like to know what happens to the pipelines when you stop using them.
The question was asked earlier, gentlemen.
No, you said you decommissioned.
Yeah, the gentleman in the front row here asked a question.
So let's assume I have a pipeline, you install on my property, and you said 5 years from now, I don't care. You just leave it there to rot.
What I was trying to say earlier was that the gentleman in the front row asked a question, and I don't think everybody could hear it. It was similar to that question. And he asked if there's a process. I don't remember exactly what his question is. The same process that we have to go through to get a pertinent pipeline sited, we have to go through to take it out of service. There's a whole process that has to go through. It's not as simple as turn it off and let it go.
Well, that's controversial. That means that anyone who gives you the right of way today commits to have the same trouble with the same shit leaking back again when this pipeline eventually dies. Right?
So is there a question?
Yes, it's a question. I said it means that if someone gives you right of way today to build a pipeline, they also commit to give you, well, by the same token, give you the right to repeat the work a few years from now to take it out. Right?
Not necessarily to remove the pipeline. That might not necessarily be the process that's used for decommissioning.
That's what you said. You said
You wouldn't necessarily. It could be. It very well could be abandoned in place. It all depends. Lots
and
of
what
different
happens
things.
to the pipeline when you're bound to leave it in place? People are told to take their things out.
It would be the same process they're saying. They're trying to tell you that it's the same process through FERC.
And the FERC is predominantly concerned with environmental
the same
impact.
process. When you put the pipeline in, first there's no pipeline, then you put one. There's the process. If you're telling me it's the same process when you shut it off, it means you go, you take your pipeline out, and you don't leave it in place.
Now, what I was referring to was the regulatory process, the process for getting approval to essentially abandon service. that whole process, not necessarily, doesn't mean it necessarily is taken out of the ground.
Well, then the regulatory process is, frankly, for all intents and purposes, to individual to the wetlands, because they would be stuck with the current and their prosecution right now. What do you do with your whole?
All right, we gotta go to the next question then.
Thank you for your patience with all of our questions tonight. I appreciate it. My name is Ken Collins, Kencollins. A couple of quick points of clarification. What is the anticipated flow capacity of the pipeline when it's finished? How much is the maximum flow? How much gas are you putting through a day?
BCF a day.
Like a billion cubic feet? Okay, that's a large amount of gas. That includes the 20% capacity upgrade you announced here tonight?
BCF a day.
Okay, so that does include the extra 6 inches that you said you said 30 inch, now it's 36 inch.
Capacity is a function of pressure as well as diameter. We didn't say we were increasing the capacity.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that those numbers were in alignment. You said something about an emergency plan. When will the emergency plan be developed, and when will that plan be disclosed for public review?
That, Dante Alessandro, still doing the process, but again, we'll have to develop that as part of the first submittal and with the formal filing. I think that's Bernie's actually. So that would be a year from July 2015.
Okay, and first shovel in the ground, is it expected when?
I think that was already on the slide.
Yeah, I missed it.
We got to go ahead. Can we just keep going ahead? Yeah, 2017.
That's an important question, I'm sorry.
I think it was 2017.
We'll leave you a video to the presentation.
It went by pretty fast, and I missed the date, that's why I'm asking. Thank you. Also,
All right, I'm going to ask you after. I'm going to ask if any of this is relevant to Delaware Township, or maybe we could just send it to them to an email.
can I wrap it up with the final question?
Okay.
All right. If Hess is successful at building their LNG port 50 miles south of the Henry pipeline at Crown Landing on the New Jersey side of the Delaware River, you wouldn't be interested in extending this pipeline 50 miles down to connect to that export facility?
Don't know anything about it.
But you wouldn't be interested in connecting to that?
It's not in the plans. Don't know anything about it.
Thank you for that answer. I think you got it.
My name is Jimmy Ryan, and I'm from Flemington, right around here. About 10 years ago, my wife and I came out to Flemington to have a little animal rescue farm. I'm born and raised in Jersey City, and frankly, just the fact that I'm going to hear the words kill zone associated with my property is kind of blowing my mind a little bit. We talked before about yay and nay. I don't think there were too many answers relative to that. I'm sitting here and it's been very educational, and this is all really terrific, a great exchange of information. But when push comes to shove, and I think you see by a lot of the people you're talking to, and when you were in Hopewell, you saw all of that, it seems the majority of the people are saying nay. I've been sitting here for hours now.
Do you have a question?
I do, yes. Okay. My mind is screaming nay every 3 seconds. What I want to ask you is, if the people of Delaware Township say nay, we don't want this here, does it come anyway, or do you go away?
We will submit our application to FERC, and FERC will make a final decision.
So, thank you. So the bottom line is that this doesn't matter what we say. If we say nay, it doesn't matter. Am I right? Am I right or wrong? I'm just asking.
No, you have opportunities both as a community, as a resident, as a landowner, as a taxpayer, to file as an intervener to FERC, at which point you'll be given all the submissions. You can write your own comments. I highly, highly, highly recommend that you join. There's a Citizens Against against the pipeline. They're a very active group.
Yeah, we are.
Okay, and that's where your voice and your opposition need to be heard, and you need to work, and you need to work together with other municipalities and other community groups. And that is your opportunity to explain to FERC why this pipeline, in your opinion, is very inappropriate for this municipality.
So there'll be no referendum about it?
There is no referendum, there is no ballot.
I just have one last question. Where exactly are transposed pipes manufactured? The pipes that you will be laying the pipeline with? Your Hess, all of your companies, you have 5 companies involved in this. Where are the pipes that will be in the ground manufactured?
Our pipe is PennEast project. Yes, it's domestic pipe. Typically, we purchase it from a mill in Louisiana or Texas.
Okay. Can you confirm that and guarantee?
I can give you, I can share with you some quotes that we've got from several mills in this project already.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I want to thank everybody for coming here. I guess if any council committee members have any questions? Do we have, Kristen?
I just have one. I probably have a lot, but I'm only going to say one. I think some of the concern is we have this movable target called a proposed route of 400 approximate feet, of which may or may not get moved, of rerouting. But at the same time, we're told that on Wednesday, it's October 1st, you are doing a pre-file application to FERC, at which point, correct me if I'm wrong, the proposed route, as we see on this map, the 400 corridor, will be illustrated as the proposed route. At the same time, you also would be submitting with that application issues of alternate routes that you looked at and decided were a no-go. Not during pre-file?
No, the pre-filing is it's got to be mandatory to use the pre-file process for 6 months, 180 days. For this project, we've extended it longer than that. During that entire period, you're looking at alternates, evaluating, coordinating with the agencies, getting input through the process, and all that is integrated, continually commented on until you do the formal filing in July of 2015.
Okay, just one very quick follow-up question. How long have you been working on this project? Earlier this year, so 6, 7 months?
Yeah, a little longer.
So in that process, though, this route sort of came about, this 400 feet corridor has come out after, I imagine, spending a lot of time, money, and personnel on developing the route. I mean, essentially, when you talk about rerouting it, are you really talking about getting rid of the route completely, or are you talking about moving the pipeline within the 400-foot corridor?
No, and as I said earlier, when I mentioned earlier that we've already moved the route of the pipeline out of the 400-foot corridor, that was last Friday.
Was that regarding the Appalachian Trail issue, or was that on a different issue?
There were a whole slew of different issues.
So when you said out of the corridor completely, what do you mean?
In other words, we've identified an entirely new corridor.
New corridor, nowhere near the 400-foot corridor, it's just what, 800 feet?
No, I don't know exactly what the distance is, but it's quite a bit further away. So sometime in December is when that A route that's not subject to a whole lot of tweaking will be available. It's a very iterative process, as we've explained before. It's not like it's something that we're trying to hide. It's just, there are a lot of things that we don't know until we get out and we talk and we get out and survey.
All right, then, I'm going to thank.
On the information, that's the main reason for a lot of the environmental surveys in the West. One of the areas we've been out, we found is cultural historic resources that extended across the 400-foot area. So we don't want to impact those resources. So we looked at alternate routes to avoid that whole area where those resources are found. We've also done it for some other sensitive resources that have been identified. You know, the more information we get, the more we're able to identify these points, the more we, then we can look at alternate routes that we can try to avoid. It's a trade-off between one resources against the other, but it's based on the significance of resource and what the regulatory agencies tell us.
Okay, at that point, I'd like to thank PennEast for coming. I thank everybody for coming in the audience and all the questions they had. We're going to take like a 5-minute break here. So if anybody wants to leave, they can leave, and then we got to continue our meeting.
Yeah, good point, Alex. What do you think? No, they didn't get
shut this camera off.
I'm coming here. So, we will be in constant communication with your local elected leadership, and they are to deploy us in any way
to make sure that we achieve the desired outcome, which is no pipeline here in Delaware Township. So again, our job is to listen, represent, and advocate. I think we know what the advocate here. So congratulations on the job that you did here tonight. I do want to be human for a second. I think this gang that was here tonight on behalf of the company did nothing to earn our trust. I think they did, quite frankly, a very poor job. I hope it's not because they take us for granted. I hope it's not because they take us for granted, because if they learned one thing tonight, Delaware Township is not going to have itself taken for granted. So congratulations to you.
Everybody's tired, but you're here because you love your homes, you love your neighbors, you love your community, you love your township. A couple things that we noticed tonight was if you have a first right of refusal for your ROW, when push comes to shove, you lose that right in the long run. And I think that's just disingenuous. And the other thing is that I noticed is when one revenue-generating entity affects the entire community and your home values, you're not just simply losing your right of way, you're losing your right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is your family, this is your home, this is your future generation. So I give you all credit for being here. And we represent about 250,000 people, and in Stockton and Delaware, we take it very seriously. We're here to listen to you.
All right, at this point, go ahead, hurry up.
Microphone.
The question was, are we in a position to help with being interveners? And we're here to be part of the process. Certainly being your state legislators means that our voice, we have a bigger bullet pulpit, let's put it that way. So, and we intend to use it. So we will advocate certainly with our congressmen, our 2 U.S. senators who represent this area, to make it clear that the community is not supportive of this. And please, I don't mean to demean anyone who's here, because if you're a registered voter, you hold the highest office in the land. That's the old saying, right? But when assembly people call up or a state senator calls up, it tends to get noticed more quickly. Not more so, but more quickly. And we intend to make those calls. So we're going to do everything possible to help you with your advocacy. It's our job.
All right, at this point, we're going to go to agenda item 13. Kristen has reworked the resolution. We drafted a resolution 2014-58, which is opposing the proposed PennEast pipeline project. And Kristen's going to go ahead and move that motion.
I'll just read the first 2 whereases, and then it's a bit lengthy. Unless you want me to read the whole thing. You want me to read the whole thing? No? Okay. Whereas PennEast Pipeline Company, LLC, a joint project of AGL Resources, NJR Pipeline Company, a subsidiary of New Jersey Resources, South Jersey Industries, and UGI Energy Services, a subsidiary of UGI Corporation, proposed the construction of a new pipeline for the transfer and deliver natural gas generated by deep well fracking in areas of Marcellus Shale, Pennsylvania, and whereas the proposed pipeline is approximately 100 miles long, a 30-inch buried pipe crossing the Luzerne Department, Northampton, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and Hunterdon and Mercer Counties, New Jersey, and whereas as currently proposed, the pipeline cuts through Delaware Township, Hunterdon County, causing it to contribute to the following. We go on to list about 10 different environmental as well as agricultural impacts. And then in the end, last page is now, therefore be resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Delaware, Hunterdon County, New Jersey as follows. The Delaware Township
Township does hereby object to the design and construction of a 30-inch or 36-foot pass similar resolutions, and we will talk with one voice, one region that will demand the end of this pipeline. So moved.
Second? All right, we have a motion on the floor that's made and properly seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote on it. We can do a roll call for this one. Yes. Motion is moved.